Alrighty. And welcome back to the final round of Swiss here at the first ever Scarlet and Violet Wide League Tournament. It's been a fantastic night of matches so far. What has been the highlight so far for you, Evan?
Man, that last match, it's so nice to watch. And immediately we're jumping into round 8 here. We have a match between NightFront, thanks to NightFront for streaming his perspective, versus Paulo-fi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but we do know that Paulo-fi was a player from Chile. And actually last week they top cut and made top 8 in the Limitless VGC tour with Hamster Mania's team, with that Galate, Dragonite, and Annihilate. And this time I do see that he's actually bringing a similar team. So going up against NightFront's pretty unique team with this Excalibur.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting teams here as we switch over. Looks like NightFront's going to be bringing that Gastrodon, Tyranitar, Sylveon, Baxcalibur, Gengar, and we see yet another Rotom, my personal favorite, Rotom Heat. What do we got over on Paul-fi's side?
Nice. So Paulo-fi is bringing a pretty similar team with this core of the Murkrow, Gholdengo, Garchomp, but this time bringing Mousehole, Annihilate, and that Hydreigon. So a pretty common team that we see nowadays on ladder
Right.
here, and I'm interested to see how it matches up into a unique team from NightFront, and maybe we can see some Mousehole action here.
Love to see some Mousehold action, and Hydreigon always unpredictable, especially with Terastallization being such a prominent feature here. Rocking that Daft Punk helmet here. Paulo-fi's going to lead here with Annihilate and Murkrow, and we see on NightFront's side we've got Gengar and Baxcalibur. A really, really strong lead here offensively for NightFront.
True, yeah. What are the chances we see 2 Gengars in a row back to back in these games, right?
Right.
And yeah, the Annihilate, it's pretty, like, most of the time it likes to go for Final Gambit to trade 1 KO, but you can't do it in front of the Gengar. So interested to see how this is going to play out. It definitely threatens fighting type damage into the Excalibur, and definitely that Shadow Claw. And here revealing that Focus Sash from the Gengar. Importantly, the Murkrow did not go for Tailwind.
Very important there. The Gengar hanging in by that Focus Sash. Shadow Ball is going to fire off that into that Gengar, into that Annihilate, making sure that it is not a threat any longer. Of course, Glaive Rush coming off there, doing a lot of the damage from that Baxcalibur. And Murkrow is going to go for the foul play. It looks like it's going to end up finishing off that Gengar, and is exactly what happens there. Very, very interesting plays here. Of course, trading a 1-for-1 here. But if you're on Paulo-fi's side, I mean, losing that Annihilate is pretty critical.
Yeah, and it really threatens the rest of the team with fighting type damage, as we did see this Tyranitar switch in here, and both Tyranitar and Baxcalibur would definitely fall prey to fighting type damage. So NightFront correctly removes that Annihilate from the field in turn
Right.
1. Both sides essentially just trading that one Pokemon and forcing this game to be a 3v3. In this early meta, all these games are so hyper offensive and so fast. And now the Gholdengo comes in. Murkrow still has that option to go for Tailwind, but I don't think it needs to if Gholdengo can outspeed these spawns. Going very offensive here with this Steel type Terra.
Yeah, that Steel type Terastallization making that Make It Rain even more powerful. Murkrow is going to go for a Tailwind, set it up in a good position here. Steel type move would be powerful on both these mods, and that's exactly what we see here. Making It Rain, Gholdengo is going to throw some coins on the field. It's going to take Baxcalibur all the way out, and Tyranitar is going to hang in there with just a sliver, about 25% of its health. Still enough to keep it in the match, but definitely something that's going to keep it just a hair away from trouble. Crunch is going to go into that Gholdengo, but now that it is a mono Steel type, it's just not doing nearly as much, as that Sand is going to keep a little bit of buff pressure on that Murkrow, but things are looking pretty grim on NightFront side of the field.
True. I once wanted to popularize this combination as it's called Murkit Rain, right? Because there's Murkrow and Gholdengo. But then someone said Golden Wind, and I thought Golden Wind sounded nicer. And here
Yeah.
we do see the power of Gholdengo. In the damage into Tyranitar in Sand, I believe should be Specs. And now Murkrow already set up the Tailwind, so it can easily go for Haze again, remove that special attack drop from Gholdengo, and threaten both the Sylveon and the Tyranitar with the powerful Steel type Make It Rain. Sylveon definitely has to do a defensive Terra here, and we did see Fire earlier in the previous game, and we do see Fire here again. Sylveon actually lost Mystical Fire, so it has to go for Terra Blast here. to actually do damage into this Goldengo. Make it rain is coming out after the haze. It should KO the Tita, and let's see how much damage it does into the Sylveon.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see here. Tyranitar, of course, going down. Sylveon able to hang in, of course, with that Make It Rain, with that special attack drop, not being too much of a bother on it with that Haze Murkrow sitting right next to it. Now the Terra Blast coming off of Sylveon. It's going to go into likely this Goldingo. Make sure it is no longer a threat on the field, and that's exactly what happens. Goldingo is taken out completely, and now now things are really evened out for both teams. I mean, well, actually, no, you still have the Pokemon advantage over on Paulo-fi's side of the field. So it's going to be still a bit of an uphill battle, but Terastallization is still able to get out there. Mousehold coming out for Paulo-fi here. Definitely something to be scared of.
What a cool strategy, bringing the mouse in the back. People like to lead the mouse in front to threaten those follow me's here. Population Bomb is coming out. We're going to count together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Definitely takes out the Sylveon
there. That's it for Sylveon. Sylveon taken down by the mouse, and that first round will go to Paulo-fi.
Man, that just shows that power of this team composition, popularized by a Japanese player called Suika. He was actually the first player to publicly show his team to get first in the online ladder, and it proves like such a good call through all the way until now with this Murkrow Goldengo with the double dragons of Garchomp and the Hydreigon. Garchomp and Goldengo always being able to spread damage, and force so much pressure onto the board there. That Excalibur and the Tyranitar, even though they took down the Annihilate on the opposing side, then the Goldengo still came in for free and just rained damage on them, literally.
Absolutely. Murkrow is showing exactly why it is so prominent in this meta right now. Using those haze drops, usually it's used to clear statuses off of things like Dodonzo, but in this circumstance, it can be used as a completely supportive ability here, and making sure those Make It Rains just keep on snowballing in damage. Well, not even snowballing, but just keep on doing that same main output that they're trying to get each match. And the Tailwind makes things even better because you can put that speed priority on its side. I think that Murkrow is absolutely critical for Paulo-fi's side. It's going to be interesting to see how NightFront adjusts to that. In this circumstance, how do you adjust the Murkrow if you're NightFront?
I would actually bring the Rotom Heat on his side. We will go transition to the team preview if we can to check out what these players are rocking once again. NightFront actually has his kind of playstyle is more of the defensive side, being very bulky. I think maybe bringing the Gastrodon or Rotom Heat could be useful, to go up against those very offensive threats. We also know how Paulo-fi plays now because it's actually Paulo-fi, my bad, that he did not bring the Garchomp and the Hydreigon, so that's very little like a bit less damage output there, and the bulky Pokemon can actually take advantage of that towards the late game. So curious to see how NightFront actually adjusts here.
Yeah, it should be interesting. You'd think that Baxcalibur may be able to threaten that Murkrow a little bit with an Ice Shard potentially, but of course we see that Choice Scarf there. It's not likely that we're going to actually see an Ice Shard if that's the case, because you want to just try to see if you can get as much damage output as you possibly can, and there's a little bit of other better ice moves for that in that circumstance. But we'll see what these leads are coming out here. Looks like Paulo-fi is going to come out with the Goldingo Murkrow lead yet again, and Gengar Sylveon will be the lead for NightFront here.
A change up from both sides. Murkrow and Gengar being the same Pokemon on the field. Interestingly, in Game 1, they were the first Pokemon that got taken out, but this time bringing Goldengo on Paulo-fi's end, and the Sylveon on NightFront's end, but it does get threatened by the Goldengo, so it might want to go for the immediate defensive Terra of Fire type, right? So I guess from Paulo-fi's end, you just click buttons, you just go for maybe Tailwind to outspeed that Gengar and then just make it rain, because I believe that Goldengo is specs.
We shall see what happens here. Instantly, the Terastallization goes off, and that will leave the Sylveon making it a fire type. Great physical or defensive advantages here that it can have with that. The Tailwind going off for Murkrow, going to put the speed advantage in Paulo-fi's favor. Make It Rain is going to fire off from its Goldingo, leaving Gengar on its Focus Sash, and Sylveon above 50% of its health, despite the critical hit. So very much able to take those on the chin there. The special attack drop obviously going off on Goldingo, but Hayes likely to remove that next turn. The Shadow Ball, it is not terastallized, so it takes that pretty harshly, and the Terra Blast coming off of Sylveon. If this goes into the Goldingo, Goldingo is absolutely done for, and it is. So Goldingo, no longer a problem, and may open up a lot of opportunity here for NightFront.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation for NightFront. He actually went for this double up of the Shadow Ball plus Terra Blast into the Goldengo to cover Goldengo's Terra Steel. Because if he knew that the Shadow Ball would do super effective damage into a Ghost type Goldengo, then maybe Sylveon could have gone for Hyper Voice and do a significant chunk of damage into the Murkrow.
Right.
So I would say a little bit of a missed opportunity there, as the Garchomp actually comes in here and just spread. Like it's an adaptation for game 2. He did not bring Garchomp in game 1, and now you can just go for Earthquakes with that Tailwind up.
And we see the Protect coming off of Sylveon. Earthquake's going to fire off this Garchomp, likely enough to take out this Gengar sitting on its Focus Sash. And not, of course, affecting Murkrow as it is a flying type. So Gengar is going to be taken out of this match. Fairly neutral turn. I think we've seen the foul play coming off here into the Sylveon, but not going to do anything against that Protect. So, of course, Paulo-fi here picking up another KO. I think at this point, Gengar is really kind of done what it needs to do, so not the biggest loss.
There's one thing Gengar didn't do. It did not get that cursed body onto Garchomp's Earthquake, because that would be so useful for this fire type Sylveon on the field. NightFront correctly chooses the Baxcalibur. I think the Tyranitar will be pretty tough to bring. And now the Baxcalibur does threaten the Garchomp with maybe a priority Ice Shard here. So might have to like pay attention on the Garchomp side. I think that Sylveon's Terra is so interesting, because at first it was defensive against the Goldengo, but with this adaptation for game 2 from Paulo-fi, bringing the Garchomp now actually threatens the Sylveon back. So interesting to see how he would like continue to play out this middle game to end game from his side, because his Tailwind turns are running low. Murkrow might not have much impact right now, and I'm curious to see what his last Pokemon is actually.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see. Murkrow, of course, doing a lot of support here. Wanted to saving it for later. You can always use a Tailwind, and we see the Annihilate come out for Paulo-fi here. And the Terastallization obviously going to be going into that Garchomp now. Likely a Terra Ground. It likes to take advantage of that, but no, instead it's going for the Terra Fire. A very interesting pick here. Going to be interesting to see how it takes advantage of that Swords Dance going off for this Garchomp. And yeah, very, very critical. Ice Spear.
We immediately
Garchomp. So it's going to mitigate the ice damage. This is smart. Okay, Icicle Spear. It's only going to hit twice. Might have done a lot worse had it not terastallized into that fire type. But the Hyper Voice going to go off of this Sylveon, going to hit both these Pokemon. And Annihilate does not like that.
Such an unconventional choice of Terra type, and it works so well here as an element of surprise in this game too. And in the original team, in this Annihilate team, that Garchomp, like you said, tends to be Terra Ground, to want to do more damage, but we see the full effect of this Terra Fire here. So beautiful, taking little to no damage from the Icicle Spear, putting salt on the wound with this Icicle Spear only hitting twice, and then taking no damage from Hyper Voice as well. Like Garchomp is just so brave in front of these two mons that usually it's scared of, but here with Terastallization, this is such a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, both Pokemon on the other side, things that could be major threats to it, able to reverse that in just one Terastallization. So we see Tyranitar swap in here for Baxcalibur, and Murkrow swapping in for the other side. Protect is going to go off on the Sylveon, allowing it to stay around for yet another turn. Garchomp's going to go for the Earthquake. Of course, it's going to not hit this protected Sylveon. Let's see what it can do to this Tyranitar. And Tyranitar is able to, it does not take that well. It takes it all the way out. You do not want to take an Earthquake from Garchomp.
Man, that's such a pity. And really, NightFront was back against the wall here, with so much pressure coming out from that Tyranitar. But I guess maybe I know why. Like we saw from the items in the screen there that Baxcalibur is a choice scarf set. So it really wouldn't want to lock itself into the
icicle
icicle
spear.
spear, right? So let's see if it can go for yet another move to threaten this
Double
Garchomp and maybe try to win the game.
Double protect here does not work for the Sylveon. Tailwind's going to go off for this Murkrow. Garchomp's going to go for the Earthquake again. Does not affect Murkrow and will take out this Fire-type Sylveon. And now it is a real uphill battle for NightFront with a 1, 2, 3 Pokemon disadvantage here. Glaive Rush going to go into that Garchomp. It is enough to leave it with just a sliver of health. That rough skin doing just a little bit more chisel on it, and it's not enough to take it out. It's a real but the sandstorm, because it is no longer a ground type, is enough to take it out. So that Garchomp goes down.
That was really clutch though. Like so now we see the downside of turning into a fire type for the Garchomp there. So Excalibur clutches it out, is able to take that KO onto the Garchomp here, and now I think it's the moment of truth. We have to see whether a Choice Scarf Excalibur is able to outspeed Annihilate. Annihilate might not be max speed there, but unfortunately in Tailwind, Annihilate outspeeds the Excalibur and goes for that close combat. So man, such a close game. Like NightFront was almost there. He managed to choose the same 4 mons for both games, but still just couldn't make it through with that attrition of damage from both sides.
Yeah, absolutely critical plays there. I mean, Murkrow, of course, with that that tailwind pressure, was really able to keep the match in Paulo-fi's favor the entire time. And that Garchomp, I think, was the absolute MVP of that match too. That fire-type terrestrialization, I think we saw the highs and lows of all of that, right? You know, we were able to see, you know, how it can flip those type advantages and turn an entire field that threatens it into something that it can actually oppress. But not only that, we saw that it loses its advantage of that sandstorm, and that came in pretty critical, at least in the end game, for that Garchomp going down. Just a lot of great mechanics. We saw kind of the best of terrestrialization tonight. You agree?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, and also that Sylveon Fire Terra, which is kind of
Yeah.
getting common, like nowadays. And I also want to give props to Paulo-fi for really preserving that Murkrow. Always make sure he maintains that Tailwind pressure up. Very smart switches. He switched that Murkrow out into the Annihilate, right? And Annihilate took very little damage. He actually hard switches it back into Murkrow. So very cool to see this all on display here. It's not a surprise that he actually top cut the Limitless Tour 1 week ago, and actually both players now, they started this match at 5 and 2, and this is an X and 2 top card tournament, so they actually both already qualified into top card here and are actually playing this match maybe to scout for more information, and maybe they don't also don't want to reveal too much information of their own teams. Seeing this terrestrialized fire Garchomp on stream here, it might, you know, bite Paulo-fi back in the butt, but we're not sure. It's actually a very interesting choice of Terra, and I think it might actually work out in the long run. So it's very interesting as team builders to gain some inspiration here.
Yeah, so many cool things we saw tonight. So many cool terrestrializations. A flying type Kingambit, I think, is one of the ones that stands out to me the most. We saw a fighting type Armarouge at one point. I mean, there's just a lot of fun things that we're seeing, more so than what you'd see even on the ladder right now. But that will do it for today. Absolutely incredible matches. Thank you so much to the Wide League and all the players that were involved. Also, thank you to our sponsors, Poppy Cantan, Dark Aura VGC, Community Gaming, and Elite Pokebox for everything.